I just had the damnedest experience reading a comic book. I almost can't believe what I just read. Marvel Comics have set gay characters back at least 20 years with Webweaver in Edge of Spider-Verse #5, an almost unreadable comic book. We're introduced to a new hero named Cooper Cohen, and he's not gay. Here's the thing. He's super duper gay. For a very long time, the American superhero landscape was certainly dominated by straight white heroes, and I'm not here to apologize for that. I don't see anything wrong with that. It made sense for the times. But I can tell you right now that the first time you met Superman, he was in the comic book, and then when Lois Lane walked by him, he elbowed Bruce Wayne and said, "I would totally pile drive that chick right into submission, man," just so that we knew that the character was heterosexual. I don't think Superman would be here today, because I think it would have been off-putting, which is pretty much what Marvel Comics does with their gay male heroes specifically, but they certainly do it with their lesbian female heroes as well. You only get one chance to make a first impression, and the first impression of Webweaver is I hope the character never shows up again. It's not that the character is gay, it's that the character is completely unlikable and has almost no heroic qualities about them other than having some superpowers. In the middle of fights, the character is flighty, can't concentrate on the mission at hand like trying to save people's lives because he's constantly thinking about fashion shows or this boy that he kissed a couple weeks ago. There's nothing heroic about the character. And then the inclusion of the character's sexuality, which is the biggest part of this comic book. This character is absolutely defined by their sexuality. And I think that's one of the issues a lot of modern comic book writers need to understand. The reason Superman has been heterosexual for like 80 years now isn't because the authors, the creators, were making a statement about heterosexuality or anything like that. The writers realized they needed something to create conflict within the story. Obviously, a love interest does that, creates personal conflict, but also you get the damsel in distress factor. You get to up the stakes in some of these adventures. Realistically, how many times could a character like Lois Lane or MJ be put in harm's way like in real life? It's absolutely unrealistic that these characters would almost die constantly to up the stakes for the heroes over and over again. And those writing tropes really work for characters like Superman and Spider-Man specifically. You think about Superman, oh my goodness, Lois Lane's in danger, I gotta go save her, but if I do that, they might kill her, I have to find another way. Works perfectly with the character, but for some reason, these modern writers think that like Superman being with Lois Lane defines him solely as a heterosexual hero, or Spider-Man being with MJ or Gwen Stacy totally and only defines the character as a heterosexual hero, but nobody really sees the characters that way. But when you see a character like Webweaver, you can only see him that way. When you see the very first page when the character is introduced, they let you know in no uncertain terms this character is gay. He shows up, he's wearing blush, eyeshadow, lipstick, more jewelry than a Disney princess, a fur coat, and like a midriff top. It's firmly established right from the start that this is a gay character. But then we get these 3 panels of like backup information going out on random grinder dates that aren't working out. Although I'm surprised it didn't work out for the bear. I thought these two had a chance. And this introduction page is completely wasted because no less than 3 to 4 more times in this comic book story does the writer Steve Foxe let you know that this character is gay and their love life is not going well. They keep hammering it over and over. Then we see the origin of the character as he's talking about all the stuff that he can't say, talking about how he crushed so hard on his straight science dork classmate Peter Parker that he put himself in danger and got bitten by a spider that ends up giving Webweaver the power of Spider-Man. He came out to his parents, who kicked him out of his house for being gay, and found his Aunt May's, Aunt Lori and Aunt Mel apparently, moved in with them and became the most fierce fashion designer ever, getting hired by Janet Van Dyne's high-end fashion label because Janet Van Dyne used to be a superhero in this universe, but is now a fashion guru or something like that. The first time that we see Webweaver, there's absolutely no doubt that this is a gay superhero. We get it. Steve Foxe continuously hammers this over and over. Bad date, weird boss, Fashion Week stress, and Albert's coming to the show tomorrow. Please, I'm begging some low-level goons to commit a crime right now. Blessed be Arthur. My prayers have been answered. Well, at least he snuck a Golden Girls reference in there, I guess. Before Webweaver can stop the thugs, it turns out this world's version of Silk shows up, but this version of Silk is a man. This makes no sense within the story, because we meet Peter Parker, who becomes a fashion photographer if he doesn't become a superhero. We meet MJ, who's a runway model. We meet Millie the model, who's a runway model. We meet Janet Van Dyne and other characters that are already established in the Marvel 616. But all of a sudden, mysteriously, we get this weird gender swap version of Silk. And of course, because it's modern day Marvel comic books, anytime you get 2 gay characters in the vicinity of each other, They absolutely start flirting with each other and they want to bang because that's the personality that they assign to all gay heroes within the Marvel Comics universe. And if all of that wasn't embarrassing enough, next time we see old Cooper, he's wearing a fishnet wife beater with a blazer on top with a terrible print on it, a Pride Heart pen, a spiderweb pen, a choker collar with a lock on it, lightning earrings, and the most fabulous eyeshadow you've ever seen in your life, getting ready for this big fashion show. Because this character is not gay, this character is super gay. And then we see the character's web sense go off, and it turns out the villains show up. And yes, Webweaver does figure out what's going on and kind of win in the end. But that's not the last big moment, because we do have to remind the readers in this like 9-page story that the character is in fact gay. We wouldn't want them to come away with the wrong impression that this character isn't solely defined by their sexuality. I believe this is the ex-boyfriend. I'm pretty sure this is also their version of Silk. And he says, "Don't ruin your sexy hero moment. Oh, this is messy, but good messy. I can work with that. Come back in one piece so we can do that without the mask. Promises, promises." And that's what passes for an origin story for a gay Marvel hero these days. Like I said, they are setting gay superheroes back at least 20 years. This is ridiculous. There was a time within comic books where you could have LGBT representation within your story, and it didn't solely define the characters. Everyone knew before Apollo and Midnighter finally came out as a couple that those characters were gay and certainly in a relationship. They were sleeping in the same bedrooms, and they certainly had very deep feelings for each other. Everyone knew for decades that Destiny and Mystique were lovers, like they were lesbians. So that was completely clear to the comic book reader, but they never ever hit you over the head with it. It's like a sledgehammer nowadays. Marvel and DC Comics need to get this under control. There are plenty of LGBT representative characters in the DC and Marvel universe that they're not using right now, which I think a lot of us would like to see. But every single time they introduce one of these new characters, they go so far over the top and they solely define the character by their sexuality that they are completely off-putting. There's no reason to root for this character because they're kind of an asshole. They shouldn't be a superhero anyway. If when you're using your superpowers and people are in danger, all you can think about is the last boy that you kissed or whether or not Janet Van Dyne's going to like your dresses for the big fashion show, you shouldn't be a superhero. Now, if you had a moment or two like that, every once in a while, it kind of makes sense where you're going through some personal stuff, but that's all that happens to the character. I don't understand how they're even a hero. It's ridiculous. Edge of Spider-Verse has been a complete train wreck. What's shocking is they probably released a worse story already in Edge of Spider-Verse number 4, the first disabled version of Spider-Man, if you don't include Flash Thompson's Agent Venom. This was from T. Franklin, the worst writer in all of comic books. You have to see this to believe it. You think it can get worse? It absolutely can get worse. It can be written by T. Franklin. If you don't see the video here, there's also a link in the video description.